months, and I knew it. Marcus, during those months, was solicitous in a way that felt almost theatrical. He brought home dinner some nights. He attended 2 of the 4 prenatal appointments. He held my hand during the 3rd trimester ultrasound and said all the correct things. My mother came over on Sundays and sat in my kitchen and drank coffee and told me I was being handled beautifully. I remember thinking that was a strange word, handled, like a situation. The surgery happened at 32 weeks. Placental abruption, sudden, severe, the kind where the attending physician does not have time to fully explain what is happening before they are already moving. I remember the overhead lights in the corridor. I remember a nurse whose name tag said Patricia, who held my wrist and said, "Stay with me, Claire, stay with me." I remember Marcus's face on the other side of a swinging door, and then I was under. I woke up in the ICU. The baby had not survived. I had, barely, and only because of Patricia and a surgical team that earned every credential they ever received. When I opened my eyes the first time, Marcus was standing at the foot of my bed looking at his phone. My mother was in the chair by the window. She stood up when she saw my eyes open and said, "Oh, thank God, honey, you're stable." And I tried to ask about the baby and the words did not come. And Marcus said, "We have to go. The kids need us." And within 10 minutes, they were gone. I lay there for a long time after that. The monitor counted. 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. The call light blinked. No one came. On the second day, a nurse named Gwen, not Patricia, who I would not see again until the following morning, told me in the measured, careful tone of someone staying inside professional limits that my husband had spoken with the charge nurse. He had described me as someone who, quote, tended toward the dramatic, who had, quote, complicated family dynamics. She did not editorialize. She just set my medication on the tray and straightened my IV line and let the information sit there between us. I understood what she was telling me without either of us having to say it plainly. He had worked the room before I woke up. He had arranged for me to be managed. On the 3rd morning, my colleague Renata, a paralegal from the law firm where I worked, 28 years old, sharp in the way quiet people who read everything are sharp, walked into my room with a gas station coffee and a plastic bag from the gift shop containing a phone charger and a small notebook. She had found out from the billing department. She had told no one she was coming. She set the coffee on my tray and looked at me for a long moment and then said simply, "Where is your husband?" It was not a question. I said, "I don't know." She sat down in the chair where my mother had been and opened the notebook to the first page and uncapped her pen, and she said, "Then let's start there." That was the moment the clock started. Over the next 3 hours, Renata and I talked through everything she had already noticed, which was more than I had let myself admit. The sales trips that extended, the way Marcus had started asking, casually, almost accidentally, about my mother's house in Clark Summit, which Diane owned outright after 30 years of payments, and which was worth somewhere around $240,000. The way Marcus and my mother had begun to align, to agree with each other about things, to present a shared position in ways that made me feel slightly off balance without being able to name why. The Thanksgiving 3 weeks earlier when Marcus had pulled my mother aside after dinner and they had stood in the kitchen doorway talking in low voices for 20 minutes while I put the kids to bed, and when I came back down they both smiled and said nothing had happened, just talking. The baby's name was going to be Rose. We had chosen it together, Marcus and I, on a Sunday drive through the Pocono foothills when everything still felt workable. I had not said her name to anyone yet. I wrote it in the notebook Renata brought me, on the inside front cover, and I left it there. Some things are kept, not used. Renata went home that night and I lay in the quiet of the ICU with my charger plugged in and my phone in my hand, and I started making calls I had been too safe, too trusting, too handled to make before.